Okay, so I grabbed Voltaire. It should be in my library section, probably in the fiction section. I just wanted to show you the notes I'd made. I don't know if you'd be able to see this, but I put pencil marks and page numbers and just a little comment of what the page number contains, what the quote's about, or even the quote itself. And then I've got stuff underlined. So, yeah, I did it. So next time I want to check out Voltaire, Voltaire's Candide, I mean. By the way, that's a pen name, eh? Voltaire's a pen name. So if anyone ever tries to trick you, was Voltaire's first name? Make sure you say to them, no, well, Voltaire was a pen name. Nice try. Make sure you know that. Same with George Eliot. I had no idea George Eliot is actually a pen name. It's actually a female author. And the reason she did that is, I believe in those times in Britain, females did not write, or at least a female would not be regarded as worth reading just because she was female, which was ridiculous, obviously. So I didn't know that George Eliot was a female writer, pen name. Same with, there's another one. Was it Charles Dickens' pen name? I don't know. Reminds me of Star Trek. Time Zero. Yeah. Anyways. Okay. I've got another crap load of books here. Here's another book I got off the free Objectivist books. Ayn Rand's Return to the Primitive. The reason I wanted this is also a collection of essays. Is it's got a few essays on education in here. The schools, the cashing in, the student rebellion, the chicken's homecoming, and the Comprachicos. That's about was it people who steal children or something like that? I think it talked about how some cultures would grow a child in a vase or like a jug, and it would crush their body, or like their body would grow, but it only could grow so big, and it would deform their body permanently, and then their body would be deformed, and they would walk around like that. Same with Japanese, I believe it was Japanese, women used to put they bound their feet to make them really tiny, and that was some cultural thing, and some ridiculous cultural thing that they used to do. Hopefully I don't know if they still do it, but hopefully not. And I think that's what that stuff's about. And of course it's a metaphor for what schools do to the mind. They don't allow the thinking mind to develop in the school. That's what the point of that is. The metaphor. Okay, Walter Lippmann's The Public Philosophy. So this is about democracy. Freedom demands responsibility. So, yes. He urges free men everywhere to take a lively, responsible interest in their government in order to preserve their liberties and defend themselves against totalitarianism. The government left unchecked will go to totalitarianism. I think history shows that enough. So that's what constant vigilance is perhaps what he proposes. I hate little price tags on books. I'm just going to take that off here. I don't like the price tags. I'm just going to... Just give me a second here. This book is called The Great Adventure, How the Mounties Conquered the West. The Mounties are the police. The Mounties are the RCMP in Canada, which are... I think they are the Secret Service for Canada too, the RCMP. But they're like one up from the cops, I guess, the police in Canada. So this is a history book, I guess, about how they conquered the West. Yeah. I don't know if, often the West, like it makes me think about the cowboys and Indians stuff that happened in the U.S. I don't know if that much stuff, that much conflict happened in Canada, but maybe that's what this is about. So, like the buffalo and cow in Alberta, because it's very dry, just like in the Midwest, it's very dry. Even desert in the United States. Alberta in Canada is very dry climate, not quite desert, but very dry. So that's where buffaloes used to roam. I wonder whether that's what this is about. So it says here, whiskey smugglers, fur traders, outlaws, gold seekers, Indians. Yes, so it's probably about that. So, yeah, that'd be good. Okay, Fitzgerald's The Great Gatsby. I didn't do any years for those, but oh well. I read this book. This is actually pretty short. It's all right. I didn't really get much out of it. Yeah, it's kind of pathetic. The Great Gatsby's a character. I would not call him great. But I did like, there's another character in here, a female character that I actually preferred. I think, what was her name? It started with a J. But I liked her. She was an interesting character, confident person. The rest of them seem not so confident. Jordan. She's interesting. I like Jordan in this book. The rest of it's not so great. And Gatsby's not great whatsoever. The Disappearance of Childhood by Neill Postman. I have been doing some recent investigations of childhood. Part of my presentation at the conference I was at in Vancouver recently was on that. And I've been reading a lot of stuff. I have some books downstairs about childhood. What are they called now? I can't think of them off the top of my head. I've got... I'll have to maybe go and get them. But I've read... Did I read all of this? I remember I was actually sitting in friggin' jury duty and I read a good chunk of this. I must have read all of it because I didn't put a bookmark in it. I must have finished it. He talks about how, well, childhood is disappearing as a era, or not an era, as a period, developmental period, because children are given all kinds of adult things and knowledge, especially adult knowledge. And it's destroying childhood as a period of innocence, or a period on its own. Like he talks about the history of childhood being that, well, being non-existent, that children are almost at birth considered to be young adults, even dressed in adult clothing, just smaller for them, right, for their bodies. And he talked about like profanities and even sex being around children, that children would see people having sex and the children would be in the bars, and I don't know if they were necessarily drinking alcohol, but they would be around that kind of environment and fighting, and so he just sees that as a destruction of childhood. And he sees that similar events are going on today with the media, violence on TV, sex education taught earlier and earlier and earlier. He sees that this as the destruction of childhood as a developmental period, certainly the innocence. He gets at that a lot. I believe I have notes for this, so if you're more interested in this, I can maybe have some more things to say if I pull out my notes. But I've got some more books downstairs about childhood because I'm studying childhood, and I want to be damn sure I know what I'm talking about before I do more with it. I have some books downstairs. I know one, the author is Elias, E-L-I-A-S. It's about the civilization of childhood or something like that. And then there's theory about history in the world is driven by practices of child rearing. I think it's a fascinating hypothesis. Anyways, I think that's enough about that book. Okay, I recommend everyone read this for sure. Economics in One Lesson by Henry Hazlitt. This is a very easy book to read. It's not technical. It takes economics right down to a layman level. It is great. I think everyone should read it. Absolutely. Everyone needs to read it. It's unfortunate that economics is not taught ubiquitously in school. When I was in high school, the equivalent would have been accounting, but it was not about economics. It was about perhaps commerce. There was no economics courses whatsoever offered, no philosophy courses either. I think economics is very important, especially if you're a voter, you're voting in a country about economic policy. You need to know about economics. Don't let politicians shove crap down your throat. You need to be knowledgeable about these things. You need to read this book. This would be if I had a top 10 books to read before you die, absolutely one of them. You need to read this to be a competent voter. Another book by Carl Sagan, The Demon-Haunted World. This is absolutely a good book. I have not read it, but the bottom here, science as a candle in the dark. I don't know if they still occur, but there is a conference. They tape they record the presentations. You can watch them online. I used to watch them a couple years ago. Fascinating presentations about science versus religion, but it's really good. You should check it out online. Just Google this, science as a candle in the dark. Presentations in like Santa Monica or somewhere in the southern U.S. But this is supposed to be a good book by Carl Sagan, and Carl Sagan is regarded in general as a good writer, a good science writer. Okay, another book. Book I thought I should have. I got this book off of that UK book depository site. I think it was like $3 or something. Some of these are cheap. Shipping is free on that site, or anywhere in the world. So this book is by John Stuart Mill, on liberty, and also his utilitarianism. Utilitarianism means that this is I don't know what you call it, a moral theory. I think it's a moral theory. Maximizing utility, meaning that the more good that you can spread, the better. And that's the principle. Now, what does that mean? Does that mean that you could carve up a person's organs? You can kill one person, carve up all his organs, and save 5 people. Does that follow from utilitarianism? As it is here, yes. So it's awful, but there's been modifications to this. There's rural utilitarianism. There's another one. I can't think of it now. Consequential utilitarianism. There's another one. There's 2 forms of it that have attempted to ameliorate that problem. So, and also John Stuart Mill's On Liberty is important to read. Not for everyone, but if you're interested in philosophy, interested in freedom, then it's something to read. So I got that, and I'm going to read it someday. Okay, also from the UK book depository, Thomas Paine's Rights of Man. Thomas Paine was one of the founders of the United States, founding fathers of the United States, Thomas Paine. I believe, I know, Christopher Hitchens wrote about Thomas Paine and Rights of Man. So he has a version of this, but I have this version. So it was cheap, and I'll read it someday. Oh, here's some more education. Summerhill School by A.S. Neill. A New View of Childhood. Revised and expanded. Summerhill is a school, I believe it's still operating under his daughter. Summerhill is a school in Britain that features non-compulsory schooling, non-compulsory class attendance. Kids will go to classes that they're interested in. They have a lot of freedom in their education, and it is what I call an experiment, maybe. There's also, I guess it would have been in the education videos. There's a book called Free at Last, and it talks about Sudbury Valley School, which is in the United States, and it's similar model to A.S. Neill's Summerhill. It's a free school. I think the technical term is free school. There's also open schools, but I think that's a little bit different. But anyways, it is an interesting experiment to see how it all worked out and all that. But yeah, I certainly come from this era, this line of thinking. about education being from a aspect of liberty, but I have come away a little bit from that because I realized that the question I was asking was the wrong question, that I had to go even more fundamental than even liberty to what the child needs. So that's sort of what I'm doing right now in my thinking about education. What the child is and what they need. Ivan Illich's Deschooling Society. I was at a talk about this at the conference I was at, and it wasn't that. It was kind of weird. Ivan Illich's ideas are very radical. Not that that's bad. I think you should be radical on quite a few things, like murder or something like that. I would hope you were radically against murder. But he talks about schooling as having very adverse effects on children, and he wishes then to de-school society. So some of his conclusions, I guess I've read almost all of it, and I stopped. Many of his conclusions about deschooling is good, and I agree. His political choices are crap, from my perspective, obviously. So I like his stuff on education, but not his politics. He is a socialist in with politics. So I run far away when I hear that term. I think history's had enough of that. So, but his ideas on ed, I think, are good. Alrighty, Classical Philosophical Questions, 12th edition. I guess the authors have been well known. The authors for this are not well known. This is by Gould and Mulvaney. I'll just grab the year here because this is a less well-known book. 2007 this was printed in 2007, but first printed in 95. Well, it's picked it up cheap. I think this was like a 60% off sale book. It's $20, but I picked it up for probably $8. 60% of 20, whatever that is. Yeah, I guess it's about $8. Yeah, it is $8 right on the dot. I thought this would be worth having. Has all kinds of questions. Plato and Charles Socrates. Value, methods of philosophy, philosophy of religion, ethics, knowledge, metaphysics. I think they would have put metaphysics first. By the way, I was talking to some education philosophers a couple weeks ago, and I come up with the idea about meta-education. We need a meta-education. Metaphysics means behind physics. What makes physics work? What are the fundamentals of the universe and reality to make physical laws work, or have a background or a context to work in? And I was thinking, well, it'd be nice to have a meta-education to do the same thing for education. But, yeah. So this is just kind of a reference book. Alright, The Idea of India by Khilnani, with a K, Khilnani. Yeah, so a book on India. I don't have any books on India. This is 97. This is about democracy, temples of the future, cities. Who is an Indian? I think this is a little bit about economics, is it not? I don't know. I guess I thought it was nice. I wonder if is it just plain on the back? Yeah, it's plain. Sometimes people will rip off these dust jackets, they call these things, dust jackets. And they will, sometimes they have inlets here. They will cut that out, cut the inlet off, and paste it on the cover, on the inside cover, and then just have the nice hard cover, like on the library. So they just have this, and they put this on the bookshelf like that, and they would get rid of this thing. So, but I'll keep it. It's not a problem. It's on the floor right now. All these books that I've been showing you, they're all on the floor because my bookshelf's full. I need another one. Alrighty. 25 Centuries of Sea Warfare. Oh, there's a friggin' price tag. It was only $1. Look at that. This is by Mordal, M-O-R-D-A-L. Let's get rid of the price tag here because I don't like price tags. This was printed in 65.59. Yep. So this is all the way up from antiquity. So the Tyramies, I think they're called Tyramies, all the way up to World War II. Battle of Midway. That's Japan. Yep. So I think that I'm interested in battleships and even like man of wars from the New World era, man of wars and liners, ship of the line, stuff like that. Like floors of 3 floors of cannons. So yeah, it's only $1. Like, yeah. Descartes selections. I don't have anything on Descartes, but now I do. Yeah, what is this? 27. Yeah. Obviously translated. Descartes only wrote in French, right? Maybe I'm wrong about that. Yeah, this is translated. Yeah. I think, therefore I am something cognito. Something, yeah. That was the phrase. Alrighty. I think these are new. I don't think I've done these before. Carl Rogers on becoming a person. Carl Rogers is a humanist psychologist. He has concepts such as psychological safety. Children need psychological safety to develop and be creative and stuff like that, which I've done some work on. Creativity, a little bit. Although I see creativity as an emergent phenomenon, it's not a primary. It's not a, it's not a primary. I hope that's clear what I mean by that. It's an emergent phenomenon from having, being able to be creative. It's not, yeah. I hope that's clear what I mean by that. Yeah, so that's, Carl Rogers was also a therapist, but he's got psychological stuff going on. Here's the other humanist philosopher, or humanist psychologist, Abraham Maslow. So this is one of his books, The Further Reaches of Human Nature. If you know at all about Maslow, you will know his hierarchy of human needs, which is a triangle. Although apparently he never conceived of the hierarchy of human needs as a triangle. That's been his contemporaries. He never used a triangle, but yeah, so this is a book by him. And yeah, 76, 71, 76. Okay, Thomas Aquinas, Selected Writings. I don't have anything about STA, so why not? Principle of Nature, on being and essence, on the virtues in general, on free choice. So I picked this up for, I guess it was $5, but I bet you it was 60% off. Or I wouldn't have bought that for $5. I'm sure I would have paid 60%, so I would have paid like 10 or 20. $2. Here's Tolstoy's War and Peace. I think this was $1. $2. $2. Why not? Will I read it? Hopefully. It's Tolstoy. Hopefully it's worth reading. I heard that Tolstoy wrote in a period of time where the monarchies paid authors by the page. So that is not... that doesn't bode well for me as a reader. Maybe this was double the length it really should have been if it wasn't paid by the friggin' page. Oh well. Here's Lucretus on the nature of the universe. So this is one. I don't think he was a sophist, but this is one of the Greek thinkers. I don't think he was a sophist, was he? But, yeah, he's supposed to be interesting, Lucretus, so I will certainly have a look at this someday. This was $3.50. This is a nice copy. Friggin' sticker on the back. Yeah, won't bother with that right now. Charles Dickens, Oliver Twist. Worth reading? I don't know. Let you tell me if you've read it. This is a fiction. $2. $2. And one more for this section, and I think I have one more, and then I'm done. The Scarlet Letter by Hawthorne. Another fiction. Britain? This is in Britain? Or was it the States? I assume it's Britain. I don't know, because I don't know. Yeah, any of the fictions I mentioned, and most of them I haven't read, let me know if you've read them and if they're worthwhile. So, alright, one more section to go.